Hi, everyone. Elida Zweidler-McKay with ZM Coach, where we're all about helping you prepare for and land that next promotion, whether that's at your current job or somewhere else. So, an interesting thing happened. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and he said that he was interviewing someone for a position in his company. And while he really liked this guy on paper, he was disappointed with the interview because the person sort of came across with really low energy, seemed like he was more interested in just getting out of the place where he was burned out rather than moving into the job that this friend of mine was offering. And he was really disappointed. So it got me thinking about the power of mindset in your job search and how important it is to really pay attention to the thinking and the energy that you're bringing to your job search. So whether you're doing your job search full time or you're in a current role and you're trying to look at other opportunities, it's really important that you stay focused on being focused. And I think there are sort of three aspects to your mindset that are really important. One is clearing out any bad history or bad feelings or self doubt that might crop up from your prior work. Another is putting yourself in the mindset of reaching out and connecting with people because so many jobs come from that kind of connection that gets made. And then the third is really putting yourself in a position of being excited about the role and interested in the role and the field and the opportunity that it presents. So let's just talk about all three of those. So the first one, clearing out any bad history. If you are in a role right now where you're burned out, you're tired, you're sick of it, you're wanting to move jobs, not because of where you're headed, but because you just want to get away from where you've been, it's going to be really important in your search to find a way to clear the air for yourself and to really let go of any doubts or stories that you might have about yourself or about how you might have contributed to that situation. Because if you show up to an interview with those doubts kind of alive for you, that will come across in how you carry yourself in the interview and what you say and how you talk about yourself. That's one of the key components that I work with my clients is really clearing the air on any past experiences, whether that's their current job that they're leaving or even something deeper in their past that maybe comes up every once in a while and causes them to have some self-doubt. Because when you're interviewing, of course, the person on the other side of the table is going to be asking about prior jobs and prior experiences. And if one of those is a hot button for you, and as soon as you think about that old role, you get like anxious or upset, that's going to come across. So really knowing how to move through that outside the interview so that by the time you get to the interview, you've got yourself into a good baseline about that past experience. That's going to be really important to making sure that you come across with the confidence and the ease and the kind of uh, self self-containment that is going to make you seem like someone that they want to hire. So then the second part is about really knowing what it is that you're moving into, getting your energy and enthusiasm up for the role that you might want. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to begin your job search by talking with people, not necessarily about finding you the next role, but about understanding the jobs that are out there and the kinds of opportunities that might exist in the world so that you can find what you're interested in and you can learn the language of the field and you can learn the language that relates to that particular role, which will help you when you're communicating in your cover letters and your resumes and even in the interviews to use the language of the field or the industry that it is that you're trying to move into. And so having the mindset of reaching out to other people, building connections, making connections is going to be another really useful thing to do in your job search. And again, something that I help my clients with. And I'll share a story about that from my own experience. So when my husband and I moved to Houston several years ago, and that was the first time I had ever really been in contact with the oil and gas industry. But I knew moving into Houston that was going to be a big industry for me, for my consulting work, and that it was something I should know something about. So I reached out to a cousin who worked for one of the big oil companies. And we had a great conversation, and he shared with me what he knew about working for big oil. And then he said, hey, there's this conference you should go to. It's called the Offshore Technology Conference. Now, any of you who live in Houston or in the oil industry know this is like a huge event that happens every year, a big conference for the industry. I had never heard of it because I didn't know the field yet. But my cousin said, just go for a day, get a feel for the field. So I did. I booked myself into a half day where they were going to be focused mostly on HR issues, which is related to the kind of work that I do. And I went to a bunch of different sessions and I walked around the booths and I saw all this huge drilling equipment and, all these kinds of things. And I heard the language of the field that there's an upstream and a downstream. And I heard about some of the challenges that were happening in HR and some of the trends. And it was so helpful because just that half day immersion and that conversation I had with my cousin was enough to give me interesting questions to ask, like interesting topics of conversation to raise in my interviews. And I am certain that that experience is what led me to my first project in the oil and gas industry. So I was interviewing for this change management position. Of course, I knew change management, up, down, and sideways. I had spent a lot of time doing that work, but I didn't know the industry. And so having that immersion for, just a day of my time, so worth it, meant that I could ask some really good questions about the project and how it was structured and the kinds of challenges that they might be facing, from an HR perspective as they were rolling out this change. And I'm convinced that it was that conversation that led me to get that job. And that project lasted for 3 years and then led to the next one and the next one and the next one. So, an investment of time that was well worth it. I think this is especially important for executive level interviews where people do expect you to know something about the field or to be able to show that you're thoughtful. When you're a junior person interviewing for a job, you're going to get all the usual questions like, tell me about a time when, or tell me about your past, or explain about this experience you had. And certainly at more senior levels, you'll get some of those questions as well. But I think people who are interviewing candidates for more senior jobs are looking for something a little bit more. They're looking for more of a conversation. And so if you can be ready with some interesting questions or some interesting topics of discussion that you can bring into that interview, it's likely that you'll come across as the kind of thinking partner that they're going to want to hire for those more senior executive ranks. So then the third piece that we talked about as it relates to your mindset is about really being able to bring your energy into the interview. So knowing how to set yourself up so that you're confident and you're certain and you're prepared and you're open for every single interview. And this is another thing that I work with my clients on, really making sure that you are energetically present. I call it your internal executive presence. So really working on getting yourself grounded and present and available for the conversation, whatever way it goes. Now, I know a lot of people get really nervous about interviews, and it's completely acceptable. Like it's a natural human response to become nervous when we're entering into a new situation, and interviews are always a new situation. But so one of the things I work with my clients on is understanding those dynamics and understanding what some of the triggers might be that might make you especially anxious or nervous, and how you can move through those experiences and come back to a centered, grounded, present state so that you come across as confident even if a little bit of your heart is beating fast. So those are some of the areas that I think are really important, where your mindset really has a lot to do with your success in the job search. And if you're going into a job search that half-heartedly, you're just kind of throwing your resume out there, you're not really prepared, it's going to be much harder to meet those different hurdles and to really be successful. So I think one of the best ways that you can be successful in your job search is to work with a coach who can help you with all of those different aspects of your mindset and your preparation so that you can really walk into those interviews ready to go, confident, able to create an interesting conversation, clear about anything that's happened in your past and able to talk about it without any hiccups, and ready to really move into that next chapter of your career, which is going to lead to the whole rest of your story. If this is something you'd like some help with or something you've been struggling with, my team and I would love to help you get there. And the best way to engage with us on that would be to book a free call. You'll talk with a member of my team, Anne-Marie Fayan, who will listen to your story about kind of where you are in your job search now, what you've been thinking about, what you're doing in your career. She'll talk about where you want to go. And if we can help you get from here to there, we will absolutely talk with you about what that could look like. And if not, we'll see if we can point you to some other resources, because our goal is for you to walk away from that call with some clarity and with a real plan of what your next steps are going to be to get your career to that next level, whatever that might be. Hope you're doing well, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care.